Today I'm talking to a woman who started working as a play bunny before moving on to an iconic soapy/mild horror series that influenced TV productions like Buffy. Since that series, Dark Shadows, she has made guest appearances on many notable TV shows, everything from Dynasty to The A-Team, before appearing in Tim Burton's recent movie Dark Shadows. She set up her own publishing house. She's written several books in different genres, and she's published even more titles. Welcome, Kathryn Leigh Scott.
Thank you. Thank you, Nalini. I'm delighted to be able to talk with you.
You began working as a play bunny. How did you start doing that?
Well, I was a scholarship student at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, and I needed a bread and butter job to pay for room and board, and I was staying at a residence for girls. It was very inexpensive, but it's New York. I needed to augment the scholarship, so I auditioned for the Playboy bunny job, and I started working at the New York Club just. I guess it was about 3 weeks after it opened, and I worked with Gloria Steinem. We were in bunny training together, and some other wonderful actresses. I'm sure you're familiar with Deborah Harry and Lauren Hutton, and probably my closest friend, Susan Sullivan, who's currently on Castle. So it was a wonderful little episode of my life, and it got me through school.
Wonderful. And then your next career move was Dark Shadows, and you were in the pilot episode. How did you get onto Dark Shadows?
Well, when I was in school at the American Academy, I did get an agent. And my agent sent me up for this job. It was actually one of the first auditions that I went on. And I was still working as a Playboy bunny. As a matter of fact, when I got the job, I called my mother in Minnesota. And I told her about my new job, and she said, "Well, you never know how these things go. I wouldn't give up the bunny job just yet." So for about a month there, I was doing both Dark Shadows, during the day, and then on weekends I would work as a Playboy bunny. It was interesting because I played a waitress in Dark Shadows, Maggie Evans, and. But nobody could have suspected that I was, going off to work as a cocktail waitress in a bunny costume. After work, but it was a funny little interlude in my life. But Dark Shadows was really fun, and to be on the very first day of it was really special.
Yes. Can you tell us more about Dark Shadows? I mean, a lot of my viewers won't have actually watched the series.
Oh, well, first of all, we started in June of 1966, and we did 1,225 episodes before the show went off the air. That was a little over 4 years. And I don't know, I did many hundreds. I don't even know. It started off as what you would call a bodice ripper, a sort of romance. And it was a gothic romance, and it had to do with this strange family that lived on the hill. And they were visited by a cousin from England who turned out to be a vampire. And there was Maggie Evans working in this little Cullenwood diner, and obviously, she's looking for a knight in shining armor. She has no idea that he'll show up in the person of Barnabas Collins, who's a 200-year-old vampire. In any case, there was a romance because he saw in her the embodiment of his long-lost love, Josette Dupre. So I was the first actress on the show who played multiple characters. I played Josette Dupre from the 1700s, Maggie Evans, of course, in the 1960s, and Rachel Drummond, a governess in the 1800s, and Lady Kitty Hampshire. So it was an interesting show because we really functioned as a repertory company. There were about, I would say, maybe 20 actors all together that had multiple roles and were on throughout the whole, 4-year period of time. So it was fun. For your first job as an actress, not bad.
Yes. Samantha asks, of all the characters that you played on Dark Shadows, which was your favorite?
Oh, well, it would have to be either Maggie Evans or Josette Dupre. I think Josette, because of all of those wonderful costumes and because it was a love triangle. And I had all of those wonderful scenes with Jonathan Frid playing Barnabas. And then, of course, Angelique, played by Laura Parker. And I just spoke to her about an hour ago. I mean, we're very close friends. And those scenes were probably the most dramatic, the most fun. And then, of course, I got to wear all of that hair and I mean, what young girl doesn't like putting on, I mean, it was like playing dress up every day. It was wonderful.
It sounds it. Do you have any memorable stories from your time working on the series?
Oh my gosh, I've had many, which is why I wrote this book, Dark Shadows, Return to Collinwood, because there were so many behind the scenes stories, so many anecdotes that were really, well, when you're doing a show that is that dependent on special effects, and we were the first daytime show to really, use blue screen and all of these things now that are associated with CGI. And to do the show live, I mean, it was quite amazing. So there were all kinds of things that went wrong. And of course, we played pranks on each other. There was one time when, as Josette Dupre, I was bitten, and then I had to run across the studio during a commercial break and jump into bed, and with the bite showing here. And of course, somebody short sheeted me, so I jumped into. Couldn't get my legs down. I mean, that's the sort of prank you play at summer camp. But I had to lie there, sort of twisted in the bed. So there were all kinds of funny things that happened, and I think it's kind of fun to relate those because the show is now 48 years old, going on 48 years, and we've lost a lot of our veteran actors, some of our favorites. So I think it's left to those of us who remain to make sure that those stories aren't lost to the mists of time.
Yes. You currently attend Dark Shadow conventions every year?
Yes. And they're fun. They're fun because we've been doing this now for, 30 years, something like that. And so we're starting to see the second and third generation of fans. And we've got 9-year-olds that are enthralled with the show. And of course, they're watching it on DVD. And then we've got all of these fans who used to run home from school to watch. And you get to know them. They become friends. So we have a festival in New York one year, and then the next year it's in Los Angeles. And we just have a wonderful time. It's a 3-day event.
What sorts of things do you do during the convention?
Well, there are, first of all, we're there all the time. It's not one of those situations where there's a velvet rope and everybody is, off, we're there mingling with the fans the whole time, which is really fun. If you go on my website, KathrynLeighScott.com, you'll find all of the information about it.
There is a lot of information about Dark Shadows. One of the things that I found interesting is that the box set is now available on Amazon, boxed in a beautiful coffin and everything. And it's got a 5-star rating, even though it has, I think, reviews from 161 fans.
Well, now this is interesting because, as you know, Jonathan Frid, Laura Parker, David Selby, and we were all in the new Johnny Depp, Tim Burton film playing cameos.
Yes.
And what's interesting is that now we've attracted a whole new fan base that's international, people who never saw the original episodes, but now they're getting turned on to it. And the fact that all of these episodes are in this box set, and I know it's very expensive, but it is 1,225 episodes. And I think that we've got a whole new fan base as a result of the film. And indeed, it's beautifully done. It's a really wonderful set.
Yes. What You've written a couple of books related to dark shadows, including a book called Dark Passages.
Yes. Um, Dark Passages has been written with sort of a wink and a nod to dark shadows. I've written several books about dark shadows, including Dark Shadows Memories. And Dark Shadows Memories and Dark Shadows Return to Collinwood are really relate everything that actually did happen, all of those behind the scenes stories. But there were certain stories I felt that I couldn't tell. So I decided to do a novel. And this is about a young girl who goes to New York and becomes an actress, but she's really a vampire. And she ends up doing a daytime television series, and it's about vampires. And of course, her mother is a vampire, and she just knows that her mother is going to think that this is ridicule. What has she got herself into? But it's a romance, and but also I write funny. This is a book with a great deal of humor, so it's sort of a humorous romance.
Oh, it sounds wonderful.
They're all available on Amazon, and they're also available on my website.
Samantha asks, how do people get involved with the Dark Shadows novels?
How are they getting involved? Well, I am going to be writing a sequel to this book as well, because it did get good reviews, and it's selling very well. And I think that there's one of the wonderful things about the Dark Shadows fans, is that they've sort of watched us develop, and I was 19 years old when I was doing Dark Shadows. I mean, it was my first job. So I've done a lot of work since, and you mentioned some of the other things that I've done. But what's really wonderful is that even though this was my first job and we're talking about it, the fans have watched us do other things and move on to other things, like for me, starting the publishing company and now writing novels. So it's one of the reasons I think that the Dark Shadows actors like to be involved with the fans, because they have let us grow.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just kind of looking at the questions. That there are a couple of different directions I could go now.
Ask your question.
Jim Vinton asks, what was it like to see the movie being filmed on such a large scale after all this time compared to the production?
What a great question. Oh, that's a great question, because arriving at Pinewood Studios, and they flew us over and treated us beautifully. We flew first class and stayed in this luxury spa hotel. And it was totally different. When we did the original Dark Shadows movies, House of Dark Shadows, for example, we shared dressing rooms. We did it on a nickel and a dime. And there we are at Pinewood Studios, and everything is so luxurious. When we were doing the television series, the sets were crammed into this tiny little New York studio. And there we are at Pinewood, where the entire village of Collinsport is built, along with a harbor. I mean, it was just astonishing to walk in the back lot and to see this. And when we were on the soundstage, these 2- and 3-story sets, I mean, it was amazing. Working in an environment like that, it really provides half your work done for you, because instead of imagining and trying to create, it's right there. And it was just magical. I mean, it was extraordinary to I think we had a budget of around $750,000 to do the first feature film for MGM, which saved MGM, by the way. It was a huge success that year when it came out in 1970. And there we are doing a film that I believe the budget was around $150 million. Wow, that was amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, what it cost them to have a tea break, could have maybe done a week of what our show was done on. So it was kind of amazing.
Mm. What other changes have you noticed in the industry during your career?
Oh, many. We were the first to use a blue screen or green screen and to do those sorts of special effects. And now I don't think there's a movie that doesn't have some bit of, CGI work. So that's a big difference. I suppose technology is really the primary difference, because an actor is still working their craft and so on, but the technology has really changed, and the budgets are just astronomical. If you think about it, when Elizabeth Taylor did Cleopatra for a $20 million budget, it was the biggest budget ever, and people were just astonished that you could spend that much money to do a movie in Rome. Now, $300 million budgets are, de rigueur.
Yes. Since you worked on Dark Shadows, you've made guest appearances in a long, long list of really popular TV series.
Right, and I hope there are more. And I had a wonderful time doing Dallas, and A-Team and Police Squad is probably one of my favorite things. And then I did a series in England. It was called Chandlertown with Powers Booth, which I loved doing. It was period drama. It was based on the Philip Marlowe, Raymond Chandler stories, and that was really a treat to do. So I've actually done quite a few movies and other television series, and I hope there are many more in my future.
Do you have any particular memories or events, things that stand out for you?
Oh, well, I did. Do you know the actor James Stewart?
Yes.
A wonderful, wonderful Hollywood legend. He's a brilliant actor. And I worked in the West End of London doing Harvey with him for 6 months. And that was wonderful. And I've had the pleasure of working with some really amazing Hollywood legends like, Dirk Bogarde and John Wayne and the others that I've already mentioned. Just wonderful actors. Joan Bennett, of course, was a famous 30s, 40s movie star, and she was on Dark Shadows playing Elizabeth Stoddard. So that's been really fun. And also the very first director that I ever worked with was a woman director. It didn't seem odd to me at all. I think it must have been another 25, 30 years before I worked with another woman director.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? I know. So there are interesting things that kind of stand out.
Yeah, that's a really interesting that your first director would be a woman, but then there was a big drought.
I know. I've since worked with other women directors, but there was a big gap in there. And I think one of the other standouts is the fact that I worked so many times with Dan Curtis, who was the creative force behind Dark Shadows, but then he went on to do Winds of War and War and Remembrance. And I did several other projects with him in England and in Hollywood, and that was really wonderful. He's been the catalyst for so many things in my life that have been good. And I don't think I would have started my publishing company if I hadn't been asked to write a little remembrance of Joel Crothers, who played my boyfriend on the show, and Grayson Hall, who played Magda and Dr. Hoffman and so on. But they both died at the same time, within a month of each other. And I wrote a little remembrance, and then I just kept on writing. And I ended up publishing that book myself. That was already 28 years ago. So I've had my little publishing company for 28 years, publishing some of the things that I've written, but mostly books by other people. Classic television series that you're probably familiar with, the Maverick and Rockford Files, Fugitive, Charlie's Angels, lots of other classic television shows. And I certainly have not written all of the books that I've published. It's a lot of books. If you go on my website, you'll see what the books are.
How did you come about to start the publishing house?
Well, I started really because I knew how to find the audience, and I thought, if I try to find a New York publisher, and this is back in the days when everything was paper and ink, and I thought, well, they'll bring the book out. If it's a success, it might be on the bookshelves for 3 months, and then that's the end of it. And I really thought that Dark Shadows was an evergreen, that it would be around for a long time. And I thought if I know how to find the audience, all I have to do is get that book in the bookstores. And I know how to reach them. So I started my company with $10. Yes, with $10. And that was to form a DBA, a doing business as license, and then I just knocked on the door of this distribution company, which is now one of the biggest in the world. But then at that time, it was 5 guys sitting on a couch. And I just walked in, and of course, they knew me as Maggie Evans. And I said, well, I've written a book. And they said, great, we'll distribute it. So that first book was in bookstores all across the country. I got 2 book clubs to do the book. And it went into 4 printings and hardcover and softcover. And I thought, I'm in business. And the next year I brought out 4 books. And then the next year I brought out 8 books. And then it went from there.
Wow.
I love business. I mean, I love acting, but I also love business. I find it very creative.
So what have been some of the highs and lows of owning your own publishing house?
Oh, well, I'm a farmer's daughter, and I've always said that my dad and I are in the same business. I mean, publishing is so much like farming, I can't believe it. You start out with just the seed of an idea, and you either commission the book, or in my case, I've sometimes written the book. And it takes, once the book is written, about 9 months to bring it. It's almost like a season. You start out with that seed, and it goes into a cold frame, and you develop it, plant it into the earth, and eventually there's a harvest time. And it doesn't end with harvest time. If you're a farmer, you also know you have to bring it to market. And that's exactly what publishing is about. So, having said that, my dad dealt with hailstorms and drought and flooding and all of those sorts of things. And I probably deal with the same sort of thing. You never know how many people are going to buy your book. So knowing how many to print. And I once remember that I was very concerned because my books hadn't reached some bookstores. And I tried to track down the shipment of books, and they were stuck on a truck in Indiana with a bunch of frozen pies. And the truck had been in an accident. Well, that meant those books were gone. So, it's the vagaries of publishing are not unlike the sorts of things that happen to any business person, and certainly my dad.
Mm.
Now, you didn't expect that answer, did you?
No, I didn't. I'm wondering, did the pies defrost all over the books? I mean, what happened?
Yes, and they were tipped over and all the rest of it. And this was before cell phones and all of that sort of thing. And to be told that your books are traveling cross country with a bunch of frozen pies. I mean, anyway, it was a sad moment. Mm-hmm. Because those books were gone. So, I mean, there are all kinds of things like that happen, and there have been many highs and lows. Perhaps among the highest points was the cooperation of Johnny Depp and Tim Burton in providing me with the photographs that I needed for Dark Shadows: Return to Collinwood before the Warner Brothers had their marketing plans in place. And here they were giving me these photographs, entrusting me with them, that they wouldn't end up online and all over the place. And of course, I mean, that was a huge leap of faith, and I'm very grateful to them for that. So that was a real high. And there have been other things like that as well. When one of my books won a big award, it was a coffee table book that I wrote about film art. that meant such a lot. Yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of, it's business. It's business.
How is it different publishing your books to publishing other people's books?
Well, when I'm publishing my own book, I wear several different hats, and I have to be very mindful that I have to have a very good editor, and I have to trust that editor because it's very important that I keep my writing self separate from my publishing self. And I also have to be careful not to overindulge myself and print too many books. When I'm working with an author, and I really love doing that, I engage them in the whole process because it's so important that I have an author that can go off and do television interviews, somebody that has some interest in the marketing part of it, and I can work with them and find out what they think would be a good cover art, and somebody that is really open to the editing process, because there's not a writer in the world, Charles Dickens included, who is also a self-publisher, by the way, who can send a book off and have it printed without somebody else's eyes on that book. I mean, it just has to happen. Everybody needs editing. Yes. So it's I don't know which. I've done both. I love. Well, I'm an actress, and it's a very collaborative thing. You're always working with other people, and publishing is certainly collaborative. And I like that. I like that. I like that ability to work with other people creatively. I enjoy that.
We've been quite busy in the last few years, and with some more work coming up soon.
Yes, I'm going to be doing another little film after the holidays with a young director. I'm looking forward to that. Dr. Mabuse comes out next spring. It'll be fun to see what that's all about. And I've got a book coming out March 19th. You can find it on Amazon. You can pre-order it now, but it's called Down and Out in Beverly Hills. And again, it is it's a funny romance. But it's also got a very serious note to it. And that is, I think everybody wonders what would happen if they lost everything. So I've taken a woman who literally has everything. She lives in Beverly Hills. She has, she's been very, very successful. The money is not inherited. She's earned it. And she's been very successful. But then she marries the wrong man. And she loses everything, literally everything. She is homeless. And if you really think about how devastating that can be, and I think we all know people who have hit hard times, it doesn't take much, a career meltdown, a very bad divorce, health problems, whatever, losing everything, and then having to pull yourself back up again. And that's really what this is about. But it's also about the fact that she tracks down this husband who caused her to lose everything. And so there's some retribution. So I had a lot of fun with this. A lot of fun with it. But my friends who have read the manuscript come back to me again and again and just say, I can't get it out of my mind. I can't, because I've always had a contingency plan. I've always wondered what I would do. So I think I've struck a chord with this book. Anyway, it's called Down and Out in Beverly Hills, and you can order it now.
It sounds like fun. You're in a couple of TV series or movies that are coming out next year. This is according to IMDb. I think one of them is Starlight TV.
Oh, yes. Indeed. I'm actually going to, I was supposed to film this next week, but I think we're going to begin right after the holidays. So yeah, it's really fun. One of the nice things about being an actress is that the phone rings and you think it could mean anything. You know, it could mean a huge change in life. It could be, you know, just a lovely surprise. So that's nice. I love it when the phone rings.
Is there anything you can tell us about the TV series?
No, not yet. No, not except that the director is young, very innovative. I've worked with him before, and he's very collaborative, which I really like because I have some input on the script and some input. I mean, he's the boss, he's the director, but it's really wonderful that you know, that I can give my own input in terms of character development and all the rest of it. So that's really going to be quite fun.
Yeah, it sounds good. So do you have any more movies or books that are coming out soon?
No, that's really the most the book coming out, the Down and Out in Beverly Hills, March 19th.
Yep.
And then the Dr. Mabuse coming out in I guess it's June, and then I don't know when the other one is coming out, but these are all things down the road. It's nice to have things to look forward to.
Absolutely. So what else does the future hold?
I don't know. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens when the phone rings.
So you're looking forward to the phone ringing, as you said before.
Right, right. No, I don't know what's going to happen down the road. I really don't.
Well, thank you very much for talking to Dark Matter.
Thank you. Thank you for calling. And if you have any further questions, if you want to talk another time, let me know.